You didn't crawl out of that fire just to prove survival. You walked out of it glowing in a language only the broken can understand. You stopped asking why me the moment you realized pain isn't punishment, it's permission. Permission to evolve, to erase, to rebuild without the softness that kept you small. They call it trauma. You call it training. They call it madness. You call it becoming. Because somewhere between the betrayal and the silence, something inside you stopped begging for rescue and started studying the flames. You learned their rhythm, their hunger. You stopped fearing what burned and started shaping what remained. The world expected ashes, but you came back forged, tempered, holy in your own destruction. You became proof that hell isn't below, it's within, and you turned it into home field advantage. Now you don't rise to impress, you rise to remind. You remind the world that destruction has two sides, one that breaks and one that builds. You don't carry pain like a scar anymore. You wear it like armor. You don't talk about healing. You embody it, raw, unpolished, and unapologetic. You're not soft anymore, but you're sacred. Because only the ones who've been dismantled at their core understand what true reconstruction feels like. They think they hurt you, they didn't. They hammered you. You don't walk. You resonate, you don't chase peace. You are the calm after catastrophe. And that calm, it terrifies them. Because it's not peace they're looking at. It's power perfected in pain. They say the fire changed you, but what they don't realize is that the fire introduced you to yourself. It stripped away the borrowed names, the masks, the polite versions you created just to be tolerated. It burned off every illusion until all that was left was the truth. The version that doesn't beg, doesn't chase, doesn't fold. You didn't come back with the same eyes. You came back with vision. You don't see people anymore, you read them. You don't hear noise, you decode it. That's the kind of clarity only catastrophe can gift. The fire didn't just forge your strength, it recalibrated your standards. You used to settle for understood. Now you demand respected. You used to crave peace with people who thrive on chaos. Now you let silence starve them. You're not cold, you're controlled. You don't hate, you've just outgrown explaining yourself to the blind. That's why you move different, not out of arrogance, but out of evolution. The flame burned away what needed to die so your discipline could live. Now everything about you is deliberate. Your walk, your tone, your stillness. You used to run on emotion. Now you run on execution. You don't seek revenge, you embody it. Every breath, every step, every glance says, I survived what was meant to end me. The ones who tried to play you can't even stand near you. The heat reminds them what they lost. You don't hate them, you outlasted them, and outlasting is its own revenge. Now you're not chasing love or loyalty. You're protecting the version of you that the fire left behind, the one that doesn't flinch, doesn't fold, doesn't fall for pretty lies anymore. You're the product of purification, not punishment. Every scar is scripture. Every silence is strategy. The fire didn't destroy you, it defined you. And now every time you breathe, the flames bow in respect. They can't look you in the eyes anymore, can they? That calm terrifies them. It's not rage, it's resolve. You're not out to prove anything, you already did by surviving what would have buried them. You don't need to shout anymore. Your existence is the echo. You don't fear the heat anymore. You are the heat. You walk into rooms and people feel it, that invisible warning, that quiet authority that says, I've been through worse. And the truth is, you have. So let them whisper, let them speculate. You're not returning to explain your evolution. You're returning to embody it. Because you're not who you were before the fire, you're what the fire worships now. You don't move fast anymore. You move certain. Every step is measured, every silence intentional. You learned the difference between reaction and response, between anger and awareness. The old you burned to prove something. The new you burns to illuminate. You don't chase closure, you are closure. You don't seek validation, you became evidence. People feel it, that weight in the air when you walk in. That's not attitude, that's energy refined through agony. You've seen what happens when you give too much of yourself away. So now you give strategically, you love intentionally, You disappear gracefully, because power isn't about being seen, it's about being felt long after you've left. They called it cold. You call it control. They called it ego. You call it evolution. You're not above them, you're beyond them. You reached a level where peace isn't a luxury, it's a weapon. You don't threaten anymore, you exist, and that's enough to make the weak ones panic. Because the fire didn't just build you, it branded you. And now every time they see you, they're reminded that you walked through hell and came back owning it. You don't even react when they test you anymore. You just watch. Calm, composed, dangerous, because you've learned that silence is louder than any scream. You don't have to prove your power. Your patience does that for you. You've seen too much to get rattled. You've lost too much to be threatened. What can they take from someone who's already rebuilt from nothing? That's the part they never understood. The pain didn't just harden you. It humbled you into mastery. Now you operate different. You don't chase, you choose. You don't argue, you observe. You don't fight for your place, you command it. You're not a storm anymore. You're the aftermath, the silence that follows, the stillness that decides who's left standing. You used to crave redemption. Now you crave results. You used to want peace. Now you embody it, the kind that's earned through blood, time, and truth. That calm you wear, it's not forgiveness, it's finality. Because the fire didn't just forge you, it finished you, polished every flaw into focus, burned every fear into discipline. And now when people see you, they don't see the pain, they see the proof. You walk different now, steady, grounded, like gravity works for you. There's a weight in your silence that makes the loud ones choke. You don't need to announce anything. Your aura already says, I've been through worse and still didn't break. You don't explain where you went. You disappeared into the fire and came back with the blueprint. You studied destruction until it became design. That's why your peace feels expensive, because it cost everything. They still try to trigger you, but you've outgrown reaction. You move with intent, not impulse. They mistake your calm for weakness, not realizing calm is what comes after conquering chaos. You don't bark, you don't beg, you build. You've seen behind the curtain now. You know who's real and who just performs. You know how people hide their cowardice behind kindness. That's why you don't hate anyone. You just see them clearly, and clarity is the sharpest blade of all. So let them talk. Let them twist stories. You don't fight narratives anymore, you outlive them. Because the fire didn't just teach you survival, it taught you sovereignty. And once you've ruled your own darkness, no one else's can scare you again. Like, comment, and subscribe. They remember you as soft. They remember you as giving. But they forgot what happens when the giver stops giving. When the healer heals themselves. You became untouchable, not because you built walls, but because you turned the ruins into armor. You used to beg the world to see your worth. Now the world adjusts to your absence. That's power. That's what happens when fire teaches you restraint. You stop chasing what's flammable. You only build with what can endure. They don't realize how dangerous that is, to face someone who no longer fears being broken. You're not hunting approval anymore. You're haunting regret. You're the echo of every chance they fumbled, every heart they mishandled, every time they mistook your mercy for weakness. So let them talk. Let them wonder how you keep rising when you should have been ash. Let them call you distant, detached, divine. They'll never understand that holiness doesn't come from heaven. It comes from heat. And the only reason you shine the way you do now is because you burned for it. They thought the fire was your ending. It was just your introduction. You walked through it screaming, crawling, breaking, and came out silent, precise, unrecognizable. You don't glow because of light. You glow because you burned right. You stopped looking for understanding the moment you realized people only listen when you're bleeding. So you stopped bleeding. You started building, quietly, ruthlessly. You became the kind of peace that unsettles the unhealed. You don't explain your distance anymore, you earned it. That space around you, that's not ego, that's boundaries forged in flame. You don't raise your voice because you don't need to. Your presence does the talking now. Like, comment, and subscribe.